Yesterday, the new patch hit, bringing more aggressive games and upset wins over the top two teams. We'll see what else teams bring out today, as you saw the fans with plenty of hype outside the arena, and CLG Team Liquid getting ready for their first match of the day. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NA LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we review the effects of patch 8.4 and preview the day's matches until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champion Select. First, though, let's take a look at the standings. As of right now, only the first place team, Echo Fox, has locked their spot in the playoffs. Cloud9, Clutch Gaming, and Team Liquid can all do the same with a win today, while 100 Thieves and TSM are still technically within striking distance of that clump in 7. Time to see which games today have postseason implications, starting with Game 1, where Counterlogic Gaming takes on Team Liquid, followed by Optic Gaming versus Echo Fox, and FlyQuest versus Clutch Gaming to close out the day. Looking at that first matchup, however, Avali caught up with Coach Kane, who shared his thoughts on patch 8.4.
Thanks, guys. Just got a little bit of a status update on Team Liquid from Kane. He said that in the early weeks of the split, the team was having a little bit of internal trust issues, but that coming into this week, team relationships are high, morale is high, and everyone is really working well together. As for the 8.4 patch, we saw just how powerful impacts could be on that Shen, but expect some surprises from Ole coming in as well. As for the last 2 weeks coming into playoffs, main focus for the team is going to be what they've been working on all split. They have the decisive wins, but they're just still learning how to get ahead from behind. That's it. Back to you guys.
I'm looking forward to those supports.
Always surprise.
I mean, we saw Leona this week. It's showing up in LCK.
Yeah.
We saw Bard out of Afro. We've seen a lot of stuff recently from support players. I want to see what Ole has in his sleeves.
We'll find out soon enough, but we can't, overlook that impact performance on the Shen yesterday, as Team Liquid absolutely rolled over 100 Thieves.
I mean, that was Impact's best game of the year by far. Like, this guy had actually been a weak point for the team, and he turned Someday into the weak point for the other team, nearly solo killing him at the start of the game, burning Flash, using his Shen ultimate to turn pretty much every key fight in that game and leading Liquid to a pretty decisive victory.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is you're looking at that and you're saying, how repeatable is that? Because for, like you said, a large portion of the season, they have failed to play around Impact, and he did a lot that game to get himself ahead, but a lot of that's kind of on Someday as well in the matchup, and like if someone bans Shen, can you do that? If you don't, get the Flash level 1, is that same thing going to happen? And those things are hard to get consistently in a season when people start game planning.
Of course, that's yesterday's matchup. The team tasked with taking down Team Liquid today is Counterlogic Gaming, who upset Cloud9 just yesterday.
Yeah, they're on a 1-game winning streak, Dad.
Hey, baby!
And they had lost 6 in a row before beating Cloud9, so this team is still completely perplexing as to what will happen next. Trends, if you're going to be on a 6-game losing streak and then win 1, you'd think that they would go back to the negative opinion you've had of them earlier this split, so it's going to be a tough road for CEOG.
But Jack, they're the only one to beat Echo Fox and C9 in the league.
I know, they've beaten the 2 best teams in the league.
They've beaten 2 of their 4 wins have come against the top 2 teams in the league. Absolute insanity. But to your point, it just makes this team make less sense, if anything. CLG's coach, though, gave us some insight into how CLG is looking to improve and finish the split strong.
We had a pretty big meeting talking about a lot of like our issues as a team and like what it's really going to take for us to get to playoffs. And we talked about, during this time changing our shot calling and seeing like who could really step up to the plate. And during this time too, having a patch change, there's a lot of chaos that went into this week, but it was also a really good time because it does like we were saying before, actually like feel like it's a fresh start for the team. So that felt pretty good coming into this week. As a team, I feel like Liquid has had a lot of ups and downs recently, and they've shown a lot of vulnerabilities in how they play the game. And personally, I'm feeling very confident going into that match tomorrow. We scrim them a lot, and we have pretty good success. And I think we know exactly how we're going to beat them, and we're going to execute.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to add with COG is last week they put so much emphasis on 2-0ing so they could stay in playoffs, and I really wanted to see what happened to COG if they actually get rid of those high expectations they had for themselves. Like, we're going to win the split, we're going to win a bunch of games in a row. Like, just kind of play your game and focus on improving. I'm not sure if they're necessarily there yet, if they're still kind of shooting for playoffs, but if they're going to make playoffs, I actually feel they get there by taking the pressure off of themselves and playing free.
Right. That said, Zix seems to be confident about the matchup today. To hear more about that match, though, let's head over to the duo who will be bringing you Game 1. 1. Pastry and Azael, take it away, guys.
Thank you, Dash. And when it comes to that CLG win, it is an exciting win for the struggling team, Azael. It's just not the kind of win you can reliably build upon.
Yeah, I mean, they were massively down. They were down over 10,000 gold at one point, and they did come back kind of through some really scrappy fights and some good performances, but there's still a lot of issues going on the team. One thing I have to point out as a consistent kind of good force going on for CLG over the last couple weeks has been Stixxay, though. He has been really strong in the last 5 games in particular, in both wins and losses, really feeling like he is improving, putting out a lot of damage, even being able to perform well, as I said, from behind when his team is losing, and he's been picking up so much of the kills, and it feels like the team is kind of building more confidence around that. They're willing to play more heavily through him and really just putting a lot of faith in him to carry again.
And the upset win not only gave CLG a boost of confidence, but they brought Team Liquid within striking distance of Cloud9's playoff bye.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really big game because a lot of analysts in the community at large had been thinking that Echo Fox and Cloud9 were kind of unassailable for those playoff buys, that they were up at the top, and C9 lost to Echo Fox, and they lost to 100 Thieves, now they lost to CLG. And all of a sudden, if TL wins today and C9 loses, these teams are tied, right? And TL can be competing for that playoff bye, and it's even more encouraging for them just how good Impact looked yesterday on Shen. You know, we know he's been a great tank player for a long time. He really did perform excellently yesterday against 100 Thieves. He's able to create his own advantages in the top side of the map, pulling off this 1v2, working well with Smithy, and really capitalizing on a lot of the mistakes that were made by 100 Thieves. Every time they were not respecting the Stand United ultimate from Shen, he's able to pull it off and come in and turn around and play.
A point for has changed a lot for a lot of teams, but that's what we're looking at for Game 1. Until then, back to you, Dash.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's continue talking about these two squads. I mean, this idea of Cloud9, Echo Fox, at one point, just maybe a week ago, we were talking about them as if they're in their own tier, they're in their own echelon. And after yesterday's results, now 1 game ahead for Cloud9, 2 for Echo Fox, everything seems a little bit less certain. It's really weird to kind of look at this. You see Echo Fox and C9, who felt so dominant, now in the second half of the split, actually 5th and under, taking up some of the bottom slots in the league, and that is a huge surprise.
Yeah, and the way the schedule works is you play every team once, and then you start playing every team again. That's why we kind of have second half right here, and we're 4 games into that. Now imagine if the second half was actually the first half of the split, what type of conversations we would be having.
Right.
We would
All
say,
of a sudden, 100 Thieves clutch getting Golden Guardians.
Golden Guardians is crushing. Cloud9, though, with that Licorice in the top lane and maybe the tank meta, that might not work out for him. So you kind of have to keep in mind how volatile best of ones can be, how important strength of schedule is, but also when do you actually reset your expectations from what was happening a month ago to what was happening now? Because Golden Guardians is 3-1 and Clutch Gaming is 3-1 in their last 4.
And if you are to take the second half to be indicative of trend, right? These records here, which are the teams that, I mean, TSM, right, looking good all of a sudden, finally with a positive win rate, and of course only looking to get better. What are some of the other squads that might make moves as, you know, based on this data?
Well, I think Clutch Gaming is a team that for a long time we've kind of saying we want bigger wins, and we haven't seen them still yet, but you can see that they consistently are performing well. They beat the teams that they should beat, which is not something that's necessarily true with some of the other teams in this league.
It's hard to do in best of 1.
Yeah, especially you're talking about Echo Fox making mistakes, C9 making mistakes, 2 of the top teams losing games that they shouldn't be losing now. It is kind of impressive on that front that Clutch continues to win these games.
Right, and you're looking at a team like Golden Guardians, 3-1 on the back half of the split so far. I'm not prepared necessarily to argue that Golden Guardians are going to win Worlds, but I am going to make some perhaps controversial statements here and ask you to judge, of course, whether or not they are overreactions. So starting with the Golden Guardians and CLG, both the teams that upset our top 2 teams yesterday, I am going to state that they are solidly in the hunt for playoffs.
That's an overreaction.
Yeah. Mathematically, yes.
Yes, they are mathematically in the hunt for playoffs, James. I guess you're right in that sense. But I don't think that they have a realistic chance of doing it. They need to win like 5 games in a row, basically, with some other people losing their games, with TSM and 100 Thieves dropping a couple games. That just doesn't feel like that's going to happen.
Here's essentially how the math works out. If they win their remainder of their schedule, so they go undefeated, which would be end the season on a 6-game winning streak. No one's had that long of a winning streak pretty much in the NA LCS.
Right.
Then they would be at 9 wins.
So 9-9.
The 6th place team right now is at 7 wins. So they would have to go 2-3 or worse. So not only would they have to dominate,
win out,
the teams above them would also have to fall a little bit off a cliff. So I think it's highly unlikely.
All right, a lot of things have to fall into place in order for that to happen. A bit of an overreaction. Let's flip the table. Let's go to the top this time around. Echo Fox and Cloud9. The gap is closing between them and the rest of the NA LCS.
Not an overreaction. I think you can look at just that second half graphics stand we're talking about, and these guys are starting to drop some games. Some of them you can kind of say feel a little fluky, and that's fine, but this is the point in the season where you should be solidifying how good you are and closing these kind of games out that you're expected to win, not throwing away 10K leads as C9. So I think in that sense, the gap is closing with TSM starting to shoot up the standings. Clutch being very good, and Team Liquid perhaps turning things around for themselves a little bit.
Yeah, Dardoch said in the interview a couple of weeks ago that everyone in the LCS is learning and everyone is making mistakes. And the way I kind of take that as well is EchoFox has been more decisive and mechanically better than a lot of the teams, and they've eked out a few wins. But that doesn't mean they're like in this other echelon above all of the other teams. It means they've been playing slightly better. So anything can still happen once you hit those playoffs.
Very fair. Our final overreaction of the day. It's inevitable. TSM is going to win it all. And when I say win it all, I mean hoist that trophy in Miami.
I hate that I don't think this is an overreaction because TSM has won 3 splits in a row. They've been to every single final. Sven and Mithy had won 4 splits in a row in the EU LCS. Hanser and Bjergsen have won 3 in the NA LCS. So, like, it almost doesn't matter how bad they look in the regular season or how much they've slumped. As soon as they start trending upwards, you're like, I guess they can go and win the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's an overreaction just because, like, it's very within the realm of possibility. If you look at 2016...
It's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee, but if someone's like, I still think they're going to win, it's not an overreaction to say that. 2016, they looked worse in the regular season. Immortals looked more dominant, and TSM still made it to the playoff finals that time. They didn't win it.
3-0'd Immortals in the playoffs.
Yeah, they 3-0'd Immortals. Right. How crazy does it sound to say, like, oh, yeah, TSM's going to go into playoffs at 4.
And 3-0 EchoFox.
They're going to go in at 4th. They're going to beat 100 Thieves in the first round of playoffs, get the bye team of EchoFox in the semifinals, and then play a more controlled game against them and make the finals. That sounds very believable.
There's a world in which that happens. Things fall into place. You can never count out TSM when it comes to North American LCS. We're going to step away for a quick break. When we return, we check in on what the junglers think about patch 8.4, rightfully pat ourselves on the back, and look for the win conditions for CLG versus Team Liquid. As we go, though, let's listen in on another episode of Mic Check, where Golden Guardians picked up their first win over Counterlogic Gaming.
I want to be a tree now. I think we're good enough.
New day, new me. Tree? Time to be the tree.
We're a tree.
Balkai reporting in.
It's Sunday. It's our day. It's early in the morning. Let's go off. I'm sick of losing.
Yeah,
let's go.
I think Fear is good. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Okay, guys, this is a 1-3-1 win condition. We've practiced this before. Let's just make sure we execute with it, okay?
Let's win.
Agreed. I love winning.
Kazakhstan be top soon, guys. Careful. Careful top. Kazakhstan be top. Don't go in. Don't go in there.
We can use this.
Yeah, he ulted on me.
Back up,
I'm coming up. Fear no flash or W. Fear no flash or W.
I'm coming up. You guys got him?
Yeah, you do.
I'm going back, man.
I'm gonna look for Fury here, okay?
Okay.
I'm ulting on.
Let's go. I can go behind her.
I'm gonna need...
Wait. Oh, we're trying to get this go.
I'm behind her.
I can get her.
Okay, nice.
I'm here.
Let's flash. Go closer. I can eat.
I can flash.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go, kill some.
Okay.
Let me target people.
Tank it.
I got ult 1.
Watch out for TF.
I have jumping 2. I got him with the root.
Nice.
Where's TF?
TF's out.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Help together.
Fight.
Kite back if you can. We should leave.
Just try and get out.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
Just go. Anything?
Kha'Zix no flash, okay? Guys, Kha'Zix no flash.
I'm going.
No flash. Kha'Zix no flash.
Got it.
Good job, guys.
I can go, man.
That was good.
Five.
Yeah, we can look.
Okay, I'm ulting in. I'm gonna take it.
I'm taking it too.
They're slowed.
I've eaten 1.
Come here.
Knocking him up. Fear.
Yeah, I'm hitting Rise.
Rise.
He's dead.
I have the guy back. Go. Get him.
Yeah.
I can TC.
Yeah, I'm solo.
Bear's at 30. We can base it and then go to Bear. I don't have to base. I have warm up. Got it.
We're here. Let's go.
TF.
Okay, kill TF. Okay.
Yeah, we got it. Stay calm.
Hey guys, we have to go on Orin.
Yeah.
I'm fighting.
Yes. I got it.
Kalista. Front line. Kill Kalista. Come in.
Yo, we can end.
Yeah, we end.
Oh my god.
We have plenty of time.
Alright, good job guys. We won. Holy shit.
We won.
Holy shit. Interesting.
A little bit more Fiesta, but we won, I guess.
The biggest thing in the 8.4 patch for jungle is the remover of Tracker Knife. That's pretty much been an essential part of jungling.
I don't know if I like it or love it or not, since I've been using Tracker's Knife my whole life.
No, I'm not going to miss the Tracker's Knife. I think that the jungle is going to go back to more carry. Carry junglers is pretty much like something that I'm good at. You know, the Lisa and the Nidalee, the Elise. There might be new ones like Rengar coming out really strong right now in solo queue.
maybe Fiddle is gonna be good again because like he got buffed. Hopefully not. I hate Fiddle.
Every jungler will go red or blue smite now, and it's a damage smite instead of the vision one. That should open up more possibilities for junglers to be more aggressive since they're not being tracked everywhere they go.
Based on what I've seen, making the game more volatile doesn't usually make it more action-packed because people take less risks when they have less information. If everything's dark and you go aggressive at the wrong time, you're gonna die. I hope it's more action-packed because that's more fun to play, more fun to watch, but I guess we'll see.
Some thoughts from the pro players. You heard some champion names being thrown out there, things like Fiddlesticks, Rengar. Don't know if I'm sold on those.
Yeah, Rengar in solo queue, he's seeing a lot of play.
Yes.
Very low win rate right now, and Fiddlesticks, I'm a little more scared.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing where every champion in the jungle's win rate went up because Rengar started getting played so often but always lost. That was a pretty strange interaction on day 1 of the patch.
Right, but earlier in this week, Jat, on This or That, you were saying that the removal of Tracker's Knife would be an impactful change in competitive. I just think it's showing itself in a different way.
Yeah, I think so. So a lot of the time, you're thinking, hey, maybe this is going to make people way more aggressive early. We haven't seen that in the numbers yet. The combined kills per minute has stayed pretty much the same in the first 15 or 20 minutes of the game. I think it's still more interesting for junglers because they're having to guess more and track more and not have as many map hacks and communicate so the better teams can differentiate themselves. But we haven't seen it immediately increase to more kills.
And it's actually had a bigger knock-on effect later on in the game, I would argue, because everyone's saying, oh, there's no trackers in the first 10 minutes of the game now, but it's also there's no trackers after 20 minutes into the game where Baron control becomes a huge factor, and so game length has been trending down over time as people just get more comfortable as teams and learn how to close games out. But 8.4 continues that trend where sometimes a new patch shakes things up, and I think it's really cool because when people used to put down a ton of trackers, knives, wards in the river, it was really hard to sweep all them out. You still have 2 sweepers, you still have a ton of pink wards, but now there's just less wards.
Right, vision clearing is still just as accessible. Yes. Vision placement is tougher to get.
Right, and that's when everything gets way more coordinated. Like, we need to control Baron area, and in the early portion of the game, losing those wards is impactful and more random fights might break out, but in the later portion of the game, it's actually super impactful because it's harder to contest things.
And Jat, we kind of heard it from Impact yesterday in that interview, the vision changes and what that's kind of done to the top lane landscape in terms of meta, if you wouldn't mind elaborating on that a bit.
Yeah, aside from the top lane nerf to Gangplank, who was great against most tanks as an infinite scaler, the fact that you are a tank allows you to be a moving vision ward yourself, right? Because a Camille can't face check a brush, a Sion can, a Shen can. So that is actually pretty valuable when trying to contest those late game objectives, that the other team just doesn't put down a control ward, sit in a brush, and say, you're screwed. Like, you can walk in there with the tank and disrupt it.
Of course, Tracker's Knife, just one small aspect of the patch. We had the mid lane item changes as well as Banner of Command, Baron buff. We talked about it yesterday. I gave you guys the over-under 16.5 because the other regions had shown 16 on their first day of play. And guess what? We came in well under 16. 10. Only 10.
We got it. Let's go. We finally get things right.
We got to celebrate our few victories here on the analyst desk. So there it is. 10 banner commands in yesterday's
close.
Is there a reason? Can you justify why it was so significantly less for us than it was in other regions?
I think it was a little bit of mania, like we were saying, but one thing that happened is people started holding their dematerializers properly, and it creates this kind of interesting game of chicken where one team can bring those dematerializers, and then the top laner who's starting to build banner can sit on the Aegis and say, oh, you still have 3 stacks and we're post 15 minutes and we're winning the game. That means you're probably going to dematerialize these things. I'm not going to over-prioritize banner anymore. I can build other items first that are better in other situations, like a locket for team fighting instead of the banner. So I think people have calmed down a fair amount once the dematerializers started being held.
I totally agree, and it makes the rest of the changes more about vision control, more about mage scaling, more about takes in the top lane, because it's not as simple as just picking early game, getting Baron, bannering it, and winning, because that banner just gets zapped.
All right, next, unfortunately, it's time for Jat Stats, and we are low on time, so we're going to have to go rapid fire. We're probably going to do worse than we normally do.
It's time for Jat Stats. I think you guys can get some of them this week, so the first question is, it's loaded with hints.
Okay.
So this jungler has the highest first blood participation percentage, so this guy is involved in a killer assist for first blood in 60+% of his games, but also has the lowest kills plus assists at 15 for junglers. So who is this jungler?
Reignovers,
best
Lyra,
at first blood, worst kills
Lyra's
and
pretty
assists.
active
This
in
is
the
the
early game.
player, right?
This is the player.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
first blood
Reignover just because of how rare they even get first blood.
Well, so I know the jungler with the highest first blood participation I thought was Anda. and he doesn't get that many kills and assists. So I think this is Onda. Say Onda with me.
Onda, I'm doing it with him. He said he convinced me.
You were so close. It was Rainover.
Damn it! Mark!
The funniest thing is there's 2 games
I should not have listened.
where he hasn't even gotten first blood before 15 minutes.
Right, you
So
know
he
why I
still
want?
gets it.
It's because of the Stixay stats.
Stixay
that
got
I
his
thought that
first
this was going to
kill plus assist in 15
That's why I thought it was Rainover because of the Stixay stats.
Yeah.
Damn!
still last
You asked for more collaboration.
Get
I'm
off
trying to
my
help you.
desk.
You can't have it both ways.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Next
Stixay
jet
still
bet.
last in league kills per assist for 15 minutes. This one, Mark, you cast Academy every week.
Okay,
The
God.
picks are very similar in Academy as they are in LCS. In fact, they have the same most banned champion. They both banned Zoe 51 times. Like, it's incredibly similar. And they have the same most picked champion in 4 of the 5 roles.
Same most picked.
But what's the role where they have a different most picked champion between NA LCS and NA Academy?
I'm not gonna help you much, man.
You're-
I don't know.
Multiple choices, 1 of 5 roles.
Well, it's just the role.
Yeah, which role?
The most picked champion.
Is it
To share the most picked
different?
champion.
No, which role is different? Because 4 to 5.
Right. Yeah. ADC.
Top lane.
It's mid. Not even going to ask you the bonus question.
Just
Azir-
average our answers and you make it to
Azir
the mid
and
lane. I feel
Ryze
like we
yeah.
got that
are
one right.
different.
How did you not
Everything else
notice the
is the
difference
same.
between Ryze and Azir? They're the only 2 most popular champions in
Should
the
have
mid
noticed the
lane.
difference, Mark.
Yeah, how did I not notice that difference?
All right, DPM question. I know you love these.
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
Multiple choice. The highest single game damage per minute. It's a multiple choice question. These are your 5 options. There's a Sven Ezreal game that we have, a Cody Sun Tristana game,
All
an
80K.
Arrow Ezreal game, a Stixay Kog'Maw game, and a Deftly Xayah game, which was yesterday.
Not Arrow.
Yeah, I'm down.
Not Deftly.
Sure, why
Too
not?
short of a game. Right?
I mean,
Well, actually,
Cody
it was
Sun
a pretty
Trist
long
game has been an
game.
Arrow for
yeah,
Ezreal.
but I feel like the high DPM games are going to come from the guys earlier in the split when we had a
Yeah,
longer
and
games,
Ezreal
right?
and Poke champions
So
have
we know
faced.
that Cody was leading DPM charts
Still
earlier,
is.
but then Sven on an Ezreal could get a lot of poke in.
Fun facts, Sven and Arrow both lost their Ezreal games in which they ranked in the top 5 for highest DPM.
I'll do Cody. You do.
I'll do Sven.
Yeah, I'll do Cody.
Mark gets it with Cody Sun, Tristana against COG.
I got James, why didn't you get any of these,
103
man?
damage per minute as Trist. Mark has gotten one
Yeah.
like
I got-
5 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, that's why
I've got it on the board.
That's why we
right?
stopped
Yeah. On
keeping
the board.
score. Notice that there's no tallies at the bottom of the
Yeah,
score.
These are hard.
Time to move on to some predictions where we will pit our analysts against the collective brain power of the audience today.
Definitely Team Liquid. This patch meta is definitely impacts meta, and they have the better bot lane.
Definitely Fox. See. Fear Tony.
I like the players on TSM, but I definitely think that 100 Thieves kind of has this one today. It's just a feeling that I have. I think that they're gonna do it today.
Ooh, that's a tough one too. I'm gonna go with C9 on this one. I think Jensen has the probably in mid lane. I'm gonna go with Jensen on this one.
Can we leave that one to the coin? Let's take FlyQuest on that one.
I love the outfit there.
Yeah. At first, I thought
Solid
they were just
outfit.
going to get everyone in team jerseys to pick their own team.
To pick their
and they
own
switched
team,
it up
right?
halfway through.
Alrighty, so we got a couple different. You guys, once again, all 5 games predicted the same way.
So the closest game I feel like is the TSM 100 Thieves game.
Right.
We got 2 teams coming in at 7 and 6. They're both 3 and 1 in the second half of the split.
Mm-hmm.
But TSM.
So why does TSM beat 100 Thieves?
They're that infuriating team where they always look pretty good, and the history is always in the back of your mind of them always picking it up towards the end of the split, and they looked really good yesterday.
Yeah, like we said, they're 3-1 second half of the split, continuing to do well. That's the only playoff matchup, if you're looking at those. The only 2 teams who are currently ranked in playoffs meaning, so it's the closest game on paper. But unfortunately, 100 Thieves did not look very convincing at all in their loss yesterday. TSM has been looking good, so it's hard to go against them.
Well, I'm rooting for the audience on this one. With 2 minutes left to go until Champ Select, let's get some win conditions up on the board here for Game 1. Mark, you've got CLG. Jat, you've got Team Liquid.
I know CLG won yesterday, but I don't recommend going too similar to that game plan because it was.
Are you sure?
It was coming back from a 10K
I like
gold
that one.
deficit.
It's great
where
when
the
you
enemy
lull
team
them into a false sense of security.
Yeah, I want to see them draft more for laning phase all year long. They've been picking these weird like team play stuff. Like I got a TF and you got a Fiora and we're gonna snowball and then we just get crushed. Like I want to see them stop doing so much of that and just pick some good lane matchups. Try and play the game like that. We see that you can potentially snowball the game a little bit better. And Stixay is starting to play good now as well. So just make sure you guys are all working as a team. Doublelift is very important. So get Stixay ahead of Doublelift. pick some winning matchups. Don't give the Shen up, maybe. And I think that's one of their paths to victory.
Laning in bot
You're
lane.
sure you don't want them to fall 10,000 gold behind.
Yeah, I'm positive I don't want.
All right, does that change now that you know that they aren't going to fall back?
Ah,
okay.
shoot.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's similar. I actually am in a lot of agreement with Mark here when I go to TL's win condition. I do think they should also draft for laning, only because of how well they did that yesterday with the Zyra Khan, with the Shen, who they gave gank priority to against the Sion. But also, I think it's winning top lane is very important for this team. More so because of what happens when they don't win top lane. Whenever Impact loses, this team, I think, is winless. So when he took over the game yesterday, both these teams are going to be in an early games arm race, but specifically they should put some attention top.
Strong laning matchups for both teams, but focus on opposite sides of the map. That's going to do it for us here. Time to head out to the Battle Arena to get into the games.